Look at the world with the overload it imposes, the avalanche of information, the incessant search for purpose. Stop. Suffering comes not from things, but from opinions about them. Alan Watts, with his gentle and revolutionary voice, what do the enlightened see that the modern mind, overloaded with information, has yet to perceive? The answer is simple, and for that very reason, radically hidden: your own unaltered reality. The pain you feel, the incessant search to be a spiritually awakened being, is the illusion itself. Watts told us that awakening is not about gaining something. It is not about adding a new layer of knowledge to your existence. It is about realizing that you are never asleep. The relentless search for something more, for a superior version of consciousness, is the very illusion of the ego in action, trying to conquer what it already is. The male dilemma is profound here. Man seeks spiritual awakening as a prize to be conquered, one more goal on the list, one more enemy to be defeated. But expanded consciousness is a state that arises from the detachment from conquest. You are the water that thinks it is separate, fighting against what it should be, the ocean. The tension that consumes you is the illusion of separation, the idea that there is a separate self fighting an indifferent and complex universe. In the next few minutes, you will understand the principle that frees any man from the weight of thought and the futile spiritual search. The guiding question that must dissolve your mind is, what is the only obstacle preventing your mind from seeing the obvious truth, and how can you use silence to dissolve it? If this message of transcendental curiosity has already resonated, leave a like now. This helps spread consciousness to others who are also seeking this essential vision.
Your deepest pain, existential loneliness, is not a problem of the external world. It is the tragedy of separation. What men feel but do not name is the terrible sensation of being a separate self, fighting alone against an indifferent and complex universe. This is the fundamental noise that prevents spiritual awakening. You try to find peace, but the conflict is internal. The mind is divided between the ego, the separate entity demanding survival and recognition, and consciousness, the whole, the interconnected nature of all existence. You spend vital energy trying to protect and maintain a boundary that, in essence, does not exist. Why do common solutions fail? Because they promise to nourish the ego, when the real solution is to dissolve it. The invisible cause is the belief in separation. Alan Watts, with his legitimacy of the conflict, summarized our condition. Civilization taught us to be egos in bags of skin fighting to survive. But the spiritually awakened truth is that we are the universe playing a trick, manifesting as you, the individual. The consequence of this illusion is anxiety, the loss of the present moment, and emptiness, for the ego can never be filled. The incessant noise that accompanies you is merely the echo of your illusion of being separate from the world.
The transformative principle that breaks the cycle of searching is detachment from knowledge. Alan Watts and Shunryu Suzuki
converge here. Awakening is not ahead, but in the simple act of seeing. The invisible error that steals your consciousness is subtle. It is confusing spiritual intellectualization with real consciousness. You can read every Zen book, master every concept of unity and existence, but your mind will still be closed. The confrontation with Shunryu Suzuki is direct and liberating. The beginner's mind, Shoshin, is the key. The modern mind is so full of knowledge and definitions about reality that it has no space to simply see what is. The searching, the effort to become spiritually awakened, is what prevents you from finding what you already are. The blockage is the ego trying to seize the vision. The ego wants to conquer enlightenment, to feel special, superior, the enlightened one. But real awakening is the dissolution of that conqueror. What do you need to let go of so that awakening can happen today, in this present moment? The deepest allegory that summarizes unity is that of the ocean. There was a drop of water, the separate self, that lived its life on the surface of the sea, agitated by the wind and fear. Its existence was a constant struggle against evaporation, collision, and the end. It cried, feeling heavy and alone, believing its life was unique and fleeting. Its great goal was to find the ocean, the place of peace and immortality, spiritual awakening. The drop's mistake was the illusion of its boundary. It spent all its energy swimming and fighting to reach a place it was already in. The turning point did not come through effort, it came through stillness. One day, exhausted from fighting, it stopped struggling and allowed itself to sink a little, letting its individual form dissolve into the vastness. In that instant of surrender, it realized it was not in the ocean, it was the ocean. The inner result, the awakening, was the vision of its essential nature. The drop did not need to search for the ocean, for its reality was oneness with the totality of the sea. It did not lose its individual form, but saw that its form was just a temporary and joyful expression of the unity of the ocean. Its ego was the illusion of its form. Its consciousness was the vastness of the sea. If the concept of the beginner's mind made sense, subscribe to continue forging this path.
The transforming principle is that awakening is not an emotional peak, but a foundational perception that changes your existence. Watts invites us to the inversion of logic. Reality is not happening to you. You are what is happening. There is no observer separate from the observed. You do not have an ego as if it were a thing, but rather a process of egoing. The ego is a verb, not a noun. It is a process of separation that your mind sustains. The symbol of this vision is the mirror. The awakened mind is the mirror that reflects perfectly, without judging, without naming, without clinging. The self is the fleeting reflection, and consciousness is the unshakable mirror. The psychological connection is your peace.
Peace is the end of the fight between the self and experience. It is the radical acceptance of unity, the oneness of all existence. Many epiphany. Silence is not absence. It is presence without the effort to define itself, without the need to maintain the illusion of being a separate self.
Awakening is a present moment practice, a continuous choice of simplicity. The possible transformation is not a rare event. It is the ability to return to the beginner's mind, Shoshin, in every gesture. Awakening is radical simplicity. The everyday example, the point of tension, is your training ground. Faced with a conflict or an anxious thought, the man does not try to control the other or the situation. He observes his own reaction with the simplicity of a child, without judgment. The real micro-practice is the 5-second void ritual. Before picking up your phone or starting a task, pause and see what is present: the sound, the light, the existence of your breath, without naming it, without classifying it. Simply be. The inner change is immediate. You move out of the noise of separation and into the lucidity of interconnection and unity. The inner before and after is clear. The mind was trapped in the ego's identity. Now it is free in the consciousness of the universe. You are whole in the present moment. The metaphor of stillness is your permission to be. The sky, your consciousness, makes no effort to be vast, and it does not care about the passing of the clouds, the thoughts, and the ego's illusion. Self-mastery and serenity are true strength. It is the unshakable calm that knows there is nothing to lose or gain, for reality is perfect oneness. Life is a game you play for joy, for vision and existence, not for the survival of the ego. Wise and poetic closing. Strength is not in the scream, but in the stillness that precedes it. It is there that spiritual awakening manifests.
Feel your spine straight, rooted. Breathe deep, slow, firm. Exhale. Let your mind try to race, but withdraw your attention from it, like a man refusing to answer a phone that won't stop ringing. Now, feel the presence of your body. Feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, your hand on the support. Don't think about what this is, just perceive the existence. This is the 5-second void. This present moment where thought quiets because you are not feeding it is your awakening. It is here that consciousness recognizes itself as unity. The anchoring phrase is, "You are here, now."
The modern mind missed the lesson of Watts and Suzuki because it complicated what is fundamental. You don't need to search for the truth. You need to stop running from the truth that you already are. The unified lesson is your freedom. Detachment from the ego, Watts, is what allows the beginner's mind, Suzuki.
revealing that spiritual awakening is your natural state, the vision of oneness in all existence. Your inner reinforcement is your conquest, the clarity and peace that arise when you give up being the separate self and return to being the conscious whole, nature in action. You realize now that the deepest illusion was not about reality, but about who you thought you were. You are not separate from the universe. Assume your presence and awaken. Subscribe and comment "Awakened" if you feel this truth and are ready to embrace your expanded consciousness and the vision of unity.